New developments in the Ukraine. The police and the state emergency service is reporting that a Ukrainian military plane has been shot down and 5 people have been killed. This as that country seeks to defend itself against a massive Russian military operation. Earlier today, Ukraine claimed to have shot down 5 Russian planes and helicopters. Well, tension is high in Eastern Europe. NATO has put more than 100 warplanes on alert and will reinforce troops on its eastern flank. That's according to Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, who says the alliance has no plans to send troops in Ukraine. At the same time, Lithuania's president has declared a state of emergency and has told the army to deploy along its borders. This as military forces massed in Russia and Belarus. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, meanwhile, says weapons will be issued to any of its citizens who are ready to defend the country. Russia launched an all-out invasion of Ukraine by land, air and sea today. This is the biggest attack by one state against another in Europe since World War II, and confirmation of the worst fears of the West. Zelensky has also urged Ukrainians to become blood donors in hospitals for wounded soldiers. Ukrainian officials say at least 8 people have been killed following explosions by Russian troops across the country. Now, for the very latest on the conflict, we cross to our correspondent who is in Moscow, Giles Gibson. Giles, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Now, very strong words we are hearing from NATO, US and its allies. Talk to us about what's the latest in Moscow at the moment.
Yeah, just in the last few hours, we've had an update from President Putin's spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, trying to explain what the aim of this Russian offensive is. He said that the aim is the demilitarization of Ukraine. He talked about the neutralization of military potential. And he was also asked a direct question about how long Russia sees this going on for, this offensive, and he simply said a pretty vague answer, to be honest. The duration of the operation will be defined by its effectiveness and objectiveness. Earlier in the day, of course, we had that speech from President Putin, the Russian president, broadcast to the nation in the early hours of the morning, at the same time as the United Nations Security Council was being held in New York City. And during that speech, we saw President Putin announcing what he called a special military offensive, although what we are seeing now seems to be a much broader, much wider offensive than simply a targeted offensive into areas of eastern Ukraine.
And I mean, you know, just part of what Putin was heard saying in that press release is that, you know, just giving reasons on why they are particularly, launching this offensive, as he's saying. But of course, we know that this is an invasion according to the West. He says, I have decided to conduct a special military operation, something also that China has echoed, saying that we should be very careful not to call it an invasion, as that is a term commonly used by the West, but that it is in fact, a military operation. But perhaps let's talk about some of the comments that have been coming through from just some of the leaders. I mean, one such comment came from the EU Commission President, perhaps probably one of the strongest comments coming from her, saying that, that Russia, which already has sanctions, will have more sanctions imposed on them. But she also says that Russia should not undermine the strength of our democracies, and that, Russia will definitely be blamed for whatever outcome of this particular invasion, is at that point in time. What are the other leaders saying?
Well, if you look at the timeline of this, we had, of course, on Monday, Russian President Vladimir Putin talking about recognizing the independence of these 2 breakaway regions, and that triggered a wave of sanctions from the US, from the UK, which sanctioned 5 Russian banks and 3 wealthy Russian individuals, 3 Russian billionaires, the European Union stepping in as well. The issue really here is that those sanctions didn't really achieve very much, because as we know, just a few days later, Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered this offensive, this special military operation to move into parts of eastern Ukraine. I think there is no doubt We are hearing from capitals around the world, from London, from Washington, from Brussels, where the European Union is based, that there are going to be even tougher sanctions coming in than were announced just a few days ago. The question is, what effectiveness are those going to have? Because the last round didn't prevent Vladimir Putin from launching this military action.
Giles, thank you so much for that. That's where we have to leave it for now. Giles Gibson coming to us live there from Moscow, just giving us the very latest there. Let's continue here now. Prime Minister Boris